Thank you guys for joining us today. I'm Sarah Edelman. I lead events and marketing for InstaWork. For those of you who aren't familiar with InstaWork or haven't worked with us directly, we're a flexible staffing app with a focus on the hospitality industry. We work with thousands of catering and event professionals like yourselves, and this is exactly the reason why we're hosting this roundtable today. We've heard a lot of interest coming together and connecting with others in the community during this time. So to help, we're hosting this roundtable with a few long-standing caterers to share their lessons learned from 9/11 and the past recession and some of the tough times that we're seeing today. During this unprecedented time, we understand you're dealing with challenges and constantly changing information. It seems like things are changing by the day and even the hour as we get updates. Our warm thoughts and virtual hugs go out to everyone, and we're here to support in any way that we can. One positive thing that I hear from just chatting with caterers and event professionals like you guys is optimism. We will get through this. Yes, we'll probably come out with some cuts and bruises, but we're going to get through it. We've done it before, and we can do it again. So some quick housekeeping items before we get started. This is meant to be a constructive conversation. We definitely want your questions and input, but we also want this to stay on topic, not political or disparaging. Just some other housekeeping rules. We've muted all participants to start, but you're welcome to unmute and ask questions. To keep organized, please use the raise hand function or the chat functionality to be called upon. And you guys, if you're new to Zoom, you can see that in the bottom section of your Zoom. We'll be sure to stop for questions along the way. I'll try to pause and answer. So we definitely want this to be conversational. And then last, we'll record the call and make sure we share the notes after the call as well. And then a few quick expectations before we jump into introductions. We put this together quickly, candidly. We want to help you guys in a timely manner. We know things are changing, like I said, by the hour pretty much. Our ask is that you guys stay flexible with us while we go through this conversation together. And then last, I really wanted to thank these speakers for being willing to share their stories and experiences with us. I know it wasn't easy during the 2008 recession, and times definitely aren't easy now, but they have graciously offered to share their experiences and stories with us. So thank you guys for joining. We will start with a round of introductions of who you have on the panel today. So I'm actually gonna let Greg introduce himself. We'll have him kind of start with who he is, how he got started in the industry, and how long he's been in the industry for. Greg?
Great, Hi, Sarah, thank you. Thanks everybody for being here. This is an important time. So I started my business in 1992, catered to in Silicon Valley. I worked for a caterer before that went out of business, and that was during a recession year. And Silicon Valley is known for its booms and busts, so we're quite used to that here. Most of the events we did, about 80% were corporate events. At the end, I sold the business at the beginning of last year, so it's been a little over a year since I've been out of the day-to-day operations, although I'm still an advisor for the company. But at that time, we had 70 full-time people, 3 museum cafes with exclusive beverage contracts for those venues, and also did most of the food catering, but not 100% of the food catering at those venues. Been very involved in NACE over the years as a national president for a few years. And I guess that's it right now. I'm enjoying kind of this time to regroup and figure out what I'm doing next and helping other people, get through these times.
Wonderful. Thanks, Greg. Lisa, we'll have Lisa jump in next and introduce herself.
Good morning, everybody from San Diego. My name is Lisa Richards, and I'm the founder and CEO of Picnic People and Cowgirl Q Catering, which is a brand new division that is scheduled to launch on April 1st, and that's not a joke. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have had 20 businesses in 36 years. Some have been wildly successful, others have closed, some have been sold. I enjoy starting business and a great deal. I'm in the catering business and special event business, but I backed into that. I was an event planner. I'm not a culinarily driven person, and our company is driven by sales versus the kitchen. So those of you that are caterers on online will understand that. In addition to going to work every day, I'm also a proud member of Certified Catering Consultants, which is a group of experts across the country that offer catering or offer consulting to caterers. And we happen to be very busy right now helping people get through that. So I feel very blessed to be in this industry, and it's treated us very well, and it's going to come back.
Great. Thanks, Lisa. Joseph? You might be on mute, Joseph. Okay, I can jump in for him. Oh, there you are.
Thank you. Because I got booted from the meeting, and it says please wait for the meeting host to let me back in. So I guess we're full here. So I'm on the phone only. I'm Joe Veneman, founder of StaffMate Online. We created the company really in the shadows of 9/11 in 2002, when the world was a very different place then as well. And over the course of the last 18 years, we've seen significant industry disruptions, including the recession in 2008. This is all of those had terrible impact on the industry, 9/11 in 2008. But this one has a more, it seems like a more devastating impact on our industry, and especially on the employees of our industry. And so that's kind of my focus in being a staff scheduling company. But we are national partners of NACE. So that's a little bit of the industry that we're part of and hope to be able to help. So
Great. Thank you, guys. Perfect. And I know we have a lot of people on the call as well. Bill Hanson, Leslie, and people that have a lot of experience in the industry, have been around for many, many years. So again, definitely want this to be a discussion for sure. So feel free to add in your comments via the chat or the raise hand function. We would love to hear from anyone who has experience. So just to expectation set for today, we're going to start with some reflection, of course, kind of looking back how we've dealt with things in the past. And then we'll finish up with forward thinking. So how are you guys pivoting? How are you thinking about revamping business? When things do pick up again, how are you gonna be on top of it? So we'll jump into the reflection questions to start, but again, feel free to submit anything along the way. So the first question that I have for our panelists is, what were the biggest learnings for your business, both professionally and personally? And Greg, I'll have you start, and then we'll jump into Joseph and Lisa's replies as well.
Okay, and I know you've related this whole question today as far as the drop at the recession in 2008. I lived through 9/11, and this is more, for me, this is more similar to 9/11 than 2008, because that time I saw 60% of my business drop, and it took quite a few years to get back to that level again. In 2008, it was 35% of the business dropped, and it came back a lot faster. I think some of the biggest learnings was just more about myself and how I'm going to run a business and my leadership skills. That was the most important thing, is reacting. What I learned from 9/11 was I have to react faster. Like if I lag in my reaction as far as cutting expenses, letting people go quicker, and having a buy-in from those people, it's just gonna, it could kill a company. And my job as the employer is, being honest with my employees and letting them know that my job is to keep this company alive, whatever it takes. And if that's not that you could be a casualty of that process or what I have to do, but that we're all in this together.
Makes sense. Lisa, how about you?
The biggest surprise for me, and again, I went through 9/11 and 2008, was this does feel like 2011, or excuse me, 9/11, because of the urgency and the morass and the just the global and neighborly impact of this. But it feels like 2008 because I think the recovery is going to be very long. So it's kind of a mixed bag as far as planning. And so what I learned from both of those experiences, after 9/11, I realized I had no emergency plan, no contingency plan. And I put one in place that was what I thought was fabulous. And then when 2008 happened, I was in denial until 2009. And then it was, my business was in a crisis state. It was very, very close to losing it. So having an updated plan is, for me, is key to surviving. And an updated actual plan that will work is key to surviving this downturn.
Great. And Joseph?
Thank you. Yeah, I have no controls over the mute and unmute because I'm not in the meeting. I'm only on the phone right now. But I have to echo those sentiments that it feels a lot more like 9/11, where there was almost a complete drop off in business than it is of 2008. But I also echo the comment that Lisa made that you know, it kind of snuck up on us in the fact that just last week many of us were at CaterSource and things seemed okay, tumultuous but okay, until the orders started coming down saying that restaurants were going to close, and now I'm still in Las Vegas, and the entire strip is closed. All the casinos are closed for at least 30 days. So it turned drastically, really within a day or two at the end of CaterSource. So that's my feeling on it.
So Lisa, you kind of alluded to, you know, you feel like you didn't have a plan set. You feel like you were a little late. And I think you guys are all going to have different answers to this one, but would love to see, was there a defining moment when you realized that you were going to have to make changes and tough decisions? And can you tell us about it? And Lisa, I'll have you start.
Looking back, I was deep into imposter syndrome. I really was trying to lead with a positive face, and what was really going on is I had no idea, you know, what direction to take. And I think that the tough decisions for me happened when I literally ran out of money. I let the company go until there was not a dime in our reserves. What I meant by letting it go is I let it continue to run until I ran out of money. And then, I mean, that's the key, baby, right? Don't run out of money. Well, I did.
Greg, anything to add?
Yeah, I actually dug up a letter. You know, for me, it was the acceptance of the situation, like where I'm at. Is there money enough to spend? You know, is there money enough to keep this company alive? And I dug up a letter I had that, you know, I sent out right away to suppliers after 9/11 that, you know, just, we need to pause. I need to take a break. My job, again, is to keep this company alive and make sure that you're paid in the future. And right now, I just need you to, everybody, and this was for employees too, to just take a break and see where we're at. And I'm proud that I never had to ask an employee to hold a check and not cash a check. Like, that's my commitment to my keeping the company alive. But I did ask vendors to be patient with us in getting a payment. So I think if you haven't taken steps already, like, it's a defining moment last week for us today.
So we had a question form while people were RSVPing. So we kind of took a look at patterns. And again, feel free to chat in any questions if we missed them. But one of the big things were kind of what were your steps in making cuts? So what did you cut first? What did you cut second? And how did you roll out those cuts? And Lisa, I'll have you take the lead on this one to start.
In 2008, we held on to everybody for almost a year. They didn't have much to do, but I was really thinking it was going to come back faster. And then in the sense of emergency, we had to cut staff deep and wide, and we did. We laid off a lot of people. We furloughed some employees that we really wanted to come back. We cut out all any ancillary spending. I mean, it was just all gone. So unfortunately, the first thing to suffer was the staff. And we did pay out vacations and any commissions and things that were due to them. And that's the maximum we could do to take care of them.
And a quick follow-up question. How did you kind of decide, and this is for all the panelists or anyone called in, how do you decide between furlough versus laying off versus keeping? I'm sure it's not an easy answer, but.
Well, I'm not by any stretch a labor attorney, but each state has different rules. And essentially a furlough is a pause in employment. The employee remains employed, so they're eligible for company paid for health insurance. They are essentially promised a job that they will come back. So you have to be careful. If you furlough somebody, you have to bring them back. Even if you bring them back to lay them off, you have to go through those steps. And a layoff is what it is. I mean, they're gone. They're no longer employed. They're going to have to find, either pay through their health insurance through COBRA or out in the marketplace. And my biggest concern now, as it was then, was making sure that everybody had health insurance. So did that answer your question, Sarah?
Yeah, that was helpful. And Joseph, I know we were kind of chatting yesterday. Do you have any additional input on kind of those different staffing pieces or how people should be looking at it and making those decisions?
Well, whatever decision that's made with regard to the employees, I think communication is the key. And I'll echo Greg's comments about doing something quickly. Because in the information that we're receiving on this end, that this is going to be a complete shutdown for at least the near term. And then from there, the return based on Greg and Lisa's past experiences is one of it's not an immediate return to everything. So definitely choices have to be made about how you're gonna lay off or furlough your employees. But communication really is the key to those employees, and you need to maintain that communication over time by providing them the options that they need for, giving them information about unemployment and about what to do in the meantime.
Thanks. In addition to what you just said, Joseph, Greg, I know you feel very strongly about transparent communication and leadership. How are you thinking about discussions with employees during this time?
Well, I think just being open and honest is the most important thing, and we're all afraid. Like, I'm afraid. I mean, I don't know, the news changes day to day. Last week when I was at Cater Source, like Joseph said, it was kind of a trickle effect. Everybody's canceling. What's going to happen? We'll be back to normal in a month. Now my fear is that we're not going to be back to normal for a while, that even if everything's cleared and nobody's sick, are people going to want to gather 100 or 500 at a time? For how long is that going to take for us to get together with groups of people again? And your employee's afraid. I'm afraid. We just need to talk about that and, be honest about, hopefully there's a job. I'm going to lay you off, and hopefully there's going to be a job at the end of this for you. Just the more honest and open you are and more genuine you are, the more the employee is going to respect that. And I've always been, our joke at Cater 2 was people leave, but they always come back. And I don't want to say a revolving door, but people would leave for 5 years and work somewhere else and come back, because we did have that open and honest communication all the time. Whether it was good or bad, good news, bad news, it's important to share that, not avoid it.
Great, Lisa, it looks like you had something to say, and then I'm actually going to open this up for a quick Q&A session. So again, feel free to chime in after Lisa or submit questions in the chat.
In 2008, we did as Greg suggested, is we sent letters to the suppliers, etc. But what I did as the owner of the business, I called every single supplier and had a personal one-on-one conversation with them. I did that before I sent the email. And there was a lot of bonding at that point, and they looked at our long history of doing business with them. Some of them at that point, right away, just wrote any debt off. Don't worry about it, Lisa, you'll be great, you'll be back, not concerned. I want your business when you reopen, when you move forward. And that was life-changing for me. That was just such a great sense of respect. I respected them, they respected me. So I strongly suggest that you should talk to your vendors, and don't be afraid. Really don't be afraid to make that call. And when they hear your voice and you're empathetic and they're empathetic, it's a totally different experience than just getting a letter. My follow-up to that was, we're doing something kind of fun. We put an email group together of all of our employees, and we're having contests in our email group. And we're kind of coming up with all these silly questions, and whatever employee wins it, then I'm sending them an Amazon gift card for $25. It's just enough for fun. And then each day, every 3 days, I'm giving them a state. We're in the middle of opening a new kitchen, so I'm sending pictures and say, look, the walk-in's working, and giving them hope for the future and trying to have a little bit of fun with them. And picking people weren't in the business of fun. So I thought I should just treat my employees like they are my customers. So that's what I'm doing, and they're seeming to respond.
Love that. Anybody on the call have additional feedback or questions?
Well, I do. I have a follow-up to Lisa's comment, and the fact that as a vendor, I echo those sentiments entirely. Pick up the phone and call your vendors. We, for one, have a history of what we call invoice relief. And in times of when Houston was being flooded, California with the fires, and multiple hurricanes over time, those are regional impacts, but we were able to step in and provide invoice relief to our clients, because at that point, the long term, in our opinion, the long term relationship is worth more than the short term invoice. So we're continuing that again this time. So I know there are a lot of our clients on the call right now. So if you're due here soon, pick up the phone and give us a call, and definitely there'll be some invoice relief to get us through this tough time. So.
Great. Bill or Leslie, I can't see if you're on, but do you guys have anything to add? Okay, no worries. We will get into some pivoting now. Thank you guys for being so open and candid. I know it's definitely a vulnerable situation, so thank you for being honest. I think it's really helpful. So kind of looking forward, how are you guys thinking about pivoting or drumming up business? Of course, we've seen takeout and delivery featured. Any other unique ideas or things that you're thinking about? And Lisa, I just am moving to you because I know we chatted about it yesterday.
Well, we took a bold move and we literally stopped. We closed the company for 60 to 90 days versus trying to pivot at this point. I looked at it and said, let's just not take any business and let's work on business for the third quarter. And so that's the direction that we're taking. And it's a bold step. And I've had some of my friends say, what are you doing? It won't be hard to come back from this, but what would be hard is to just drain all the cash waiting for this turnaround. So, I feel great peace at having quickly made this decision, taking this action, and my employees have been incredibly supportive. And my top 20 clients I've reached out to, and they said, great, we're not planning anything. We'll call you if we do.
Got it. Yeah.
Greg.
And I think that's a great idea, Lisa. I mean, I think that's what you have to do. And you have to look at your business and restart the business. And, what does it take to restart this business? Be as lean as possible at this time, but also look for other opportunities. I think the delivery portion is going to be big, individual packaging of food. There's all this cloud kitchen space, ghost kitchens that people are looking to rent space from. I've had a couple people in the past year come to me about sub-renting space. So is this a good time to partner up with some of those people, take on that business? I mean, I think you have to look at you have to deal with the crisis, but you have to deal with, going forward and what is this business going to look like. I talked a little bit, 2008 wasn't as bad in Silicon Valley because that was a time, although it was a big dip, that was a time all the companies started feeding their employees daily. So I entered that business and, grew a lot because of that. So how is this going to change your business? What's the direction the business going to be in? Are we going to be doing events for 1,000 people, or is it going to be box lunches for 1,000 people? And,
Yeah.
I think look at
Well,
what's next.
and if I can jump in here for a second, with over 18 years in the industry, I've plenty of anecdotal evidence of what caterers do when faced with extreme situations like what we're feeling now. But what I did is last night I took a look at the registration list for today's webinar, and I did some browsing. I looked at your websites and your social media, and you may have noticed a like or two from staff made overnight. That was me. But in that brief scan of the nearly 100 participants at that point, I found more than a few excellent examples of what I call crisis thriving that I wanted to share. On ROO's website, ROHSF.com, there's a clear statement that they, for the health and safety of employees and guests, are pausing their service for 2 to 3 weeks to exercise social distancing. They ask visitors to watch social media for updates. And this is a great example of giving your visitors a clear and concise message of your intention and providing them with a way to tell that you're back to normal operations. In other words, in my opinion, if your website and social presence is the same today as it was last week, screaming, book your event today, and nobody is there to book it with, your visitor will feel that you're disconnected. So that's one thing that I would pay attention to as well. And then Tony CatersToYou.com is offering Tony's Good Cooking delivered to your door. Order as much or as little as you need for the week, and we'll deliver healthy, nourishing meals to you. And they're offering pickup as well. And Jalsa Catering at Events has a clear statement right on the homepage offering free delivery and curbside pickup. Alante.com, I don't know whether this is the same as it was last week, but their pop-up screams, we are open and ready to cater to you with free delivery and 25% off of each order. And think about it, besides me, if someone is seeing that, it means that they were looking for someone to say, we are ready to cater to you. So that's definitely a good way to get the message out. Crave Catering in Austin is offering curbside pickup and a link to their curbside menu. A lot of the restaurants have curbside pickup, have curbside menus as well. Have that menu right there. Make it ultra easy for your visitor. And what I love about Crave is that all profits, they mention right on the menu, that all profits are supporting Team Crave chef and service staff during this difficult time, which is definitely music to staffmates' ears. So Leslie, awesome and perfect. But I got to say, my favorite moment of the night came when I checked in on Big Delicious Planet and Heidi Mormon Goodall. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But a few days ago, she started a GoFundMe page and created a program called Catering for Communities. And in just a few short days, that fund raised more than $15,000, which she'll use to keep some of her staff employed while creating free meals for underprivileged Chicago communities. And Grace, I don't know whether you were able to make today's webinar or not, but please let Heidi know that in support of her efforts, Staff Made Online has already created a free account where she can manage the distribution volunteers she'll need. And my wife Amy and I are eager to help your team mobilize the volunteers through the software. So, and I wanted to let anyone else that's listening right now know that if you want to start a similar program in your community, reach out to me directly, and there'll be a free Staff Made Online account for you as well. So I guess the idea is that no matter what decision you make, just ensure that your website and social media presence communicate to your fan base with a clear and concise messaging. And if you are going to do pickup and delivery, start hitting that Rolodex hard of all your corporate clients, because they're at home right now wondering how they're going to feed themselves as well. So,
right, and part of that, the food delivery, I think now's a good time. Instead of, if I was doing that from scratch today, it'd be a hard time to ramp that up as far as marketing. Reach out to DoorDash, those kind of groups that, yes. Could a caterer easily supply food for a family of 4 for a week, at a time in one delivery, versus restaurants doing that. So, that's something we provide that's a little bit different than a restaurant.
And Lisa, I know in 2008 you had some ideas of what you were doing. Can you share a little bit about the disaster relief piece and also some of the cloud kitchen stuff you did back then?
Yeah, it wasn't called the cloud kitchen then, but we had other producers come in to our kitchen. We had Kashi, which is a cereal company, hire us to make their salads for grocery stores, which was great. So, but my favorite was we had a woman who made whole food dog food biscuits and birthday cakes. So we had this dog lady in the kitchen, and she made beautiful food, all human grade, and that really helped. It really, really, really helped, and it was fun. And it was fun to have them. But I did hear from somebody yesterday who said in the cloud kitchen situation right now, make sure that the people you're bringing into your kitchen have been tested or have been quarantined, and you can really make sure they're healthy coming into your kitchen. I thought that was good advice to learn.
I also think going forward, you have to look at competitors, through NACE, through ICA, be connected with competitors in your area that, together we can survive this, separate, we might not survive this. So I had a caterer that joined me and I bought her out after a few years of being in my kitchen together after 2008. So that's, there's opportunity here to grow as a business and to stay strong together versus like trying to get the business apart, might put us both out of business versus joining together.
I have a comment on that. May I? In San Diego, a group of caterers have come together. This started about 3 months ago, and we're all in a email group, and we're really helping each other. We're loaning each other equipment. There was some emergency food service business here in San Diego that I didn't want to handle, so I was able to get to somebody else. I've been just really helping people that have been feeding the quarantined people here at Miramar Marine Base, and we've been talking about insurance issues. We've been talking about not paying rent this month. We've been really coming together. So if you can form a group of your competitors and treat each other as colleagues, and it's very soothing to have this group responding to each other. So we've done what you're suggesting. We're really excited about the friendships.
We have a question in the chat. Thank you, Brian, so much. So the question is, in uncertain times, it's hard to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. How long were the recovery periods for 9/11 and 08? And then additionally, any thoughts on the possible lasting effects of social distancing in our industry? Greg, I'll have you take it.
When I looked at my numbers this morning, it took me after 9/11, I was a much smaller company at that time. It took me 5 years to recover till 2008. And then boom, again. After 2008, it was just a couple of years. So it did take time, but I think 2008, I reacted quicker because I learned that after 9/11 to be as lean as possible and, not overhire to start and use temporary staffing as much as I could. At that time, it takes a while, but you can get through it. I know we can get through it. It's just, it takes time.
Lisa or Joseph, anything to add?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. I think that 9/11 came back about 100% 2 years after the incident, and the 08 was a solid 5 years of recovery. And I don't feel like I ever recovered from it totally from a personal financial loss. So this I think is very different. I'm planning on a solid second quarter being just gone. And then when we come back online, I'm budgeting that the third and the fourth quarter will be typically like 40% off of our average sales. So we are now rebudgeting, reforecasting, doing new lines of cash flow, in particularly getting ready to use the lines of credit that we have established. So I'm really looking at being, if I could break even on the year, which I don't think is possible, that would be amazing. And to the point of bringing staff back, like Greg said, we will absolutely use temporary staff coming back on. I know that we're going to have some of our staff that's gone now. I've heard that some of them want to move to Phoenix, some are going to go home with their parents. So I think when this turns around and we're really ready to go, that we're going to be using temporary agencies for the unforeseeable future. I'm hoping that some of them will be, temp to hire, because that has always worked well for us. But that's a major part of our recovery plan is temporary labor.
I think there were a lot of questions leading up to this when people registered about, cash flow right now and how to recover starting now. And I think that we touched on this earlier, but I've got to tell you that if you go to nace.net, and not just because we're national partners, but because they have an extraordinary list of articles that deal with. I learned just last night for the first time, Facebook is offering a $100 million program for small businesses impacted by coronavirus. A lot of you, when I was looking through the registration rules last night, a lot of you are right around Silicon Valley. Facebook is announcing this, but it's not limited to just people in that area. It's actually up to 30 countries that they're offering this for. Also, there's an article on here about the Small Business Administration providing their recovery loans. And I know that one of our clients, Joe from Party Man Catering in New York, in the ICA Roundtable is offering to share a Google Drive of all the documents that they're collecting from caterers about vendor letters and landlord letters and things that they shouldn't have to replicate, that they can share together. So if anyone wants to send me their email address, I would pass that along to Joe and get you attached to that Google Drive as well. So the organizations really are helpful. And like I said, nace.net is just there's articles here that are keeping people informed of the latest, not only of the situation with COVID-19, but also with how to recover. So if you've never joined an organization before or thinking about joining an organization, coming out of this at least, this is why the organizations exist. It's nice to have the conferences and this and the other, but when there's a need for people to come together, this is exactly why these organizations exist, to help us.
All right, we have a quick note from Robert. He says, greetings from San Francisco. He's waving. He's with Global DMC. He's hoping to hear from the panel on how you believe this issue will reshape and redefine us as an industry. Greg?
I'll go.
Perfect.
Okay.
I believe that human behavior is hard to change. And in this crisis, we are all adapting it, and our adrenaline's pumping in. It's fight or flight. And when this settles down, I think we're going to revert to old behaviors. Corporations won't, as far as spending their money. So to address Robert's question, I think that budgets are going to be very tight, and that people will buy, that our buyers will just be more simple in what they end up purchasing. But I do believe they're going to buy. I do believe that companies are going to invest in morale. I know people are going to they're going to get married as soon as they can kiss each other. So
Right.
it's going to be, that's going to revert, I think. I don't see a profound fundamental change in the long range in the entire hospitality industry.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. I think weddings are going to come back faster, and my problem is I've never been a wedding caterer, more corporate events, always 80% corporate events. So, if you're doing weddings or, pivot to doing weddings if you're a corporate caterer now, because those are going to come back the minute people can gather again. And again, corporate, I think, is going to be more difficult, but it's going to be more of that, 2008, when we had the recession here, the companies were feeding their employees and they were doing events, but they never wanted to look like they were spending money. So it wasn't politically correct to make it look like they were doing a grand affair. So just be conscious of, it's going to be events that aren't getting 1,000 people together in a room. It's going to be, smaller groups of people together in shifts, maybe.
And I think as a tangent to that question in the first place about, how is this going to profoundly impact our industry? I think each client or each caterer has to kind of define this moment as well. That if you're staying open or you're not staying open, take a look at your processes and the way that you're doing things right now. When you're talking about being able to keep employees, if you have the ability to do so, you can transition some of those employees into maintenance or organizing, or you in particular could be looking at different processes of the way you do things over this time period. So coming out on the other end may be more of a change in you and in your operation than it is in the industry as a whole, because I think people will, as long as there's a human race, people will continue to gather. But take this opportunity, because if you weren't the number one caterer in your area going into this, everyone's starting from scratch on the other side of this. And there's going to be businesses that come out of this stronger than when they went in because of changes they made in this off season. Where business isn't there. Take a look at the processes you have, the vendors that you have, the software that you have. Find out if there's ways to get great solutions at lower prices, become leaner out of all of this. And I think the change that you'll see on the other side is that you'll come out stronger, because we often don't have time to stop and look at these things. We're too busy making decisions on the fly in the catering industry. Now is your chance to be able to take a look at those things and come out stronger on the other end.
And I do think going forward, like, buffets are going to be a thing of the past, and finished plates, it's going to be more labor intensive. So staffing is going to be a higher cost to the customer, and that's going to be okay going forward, I think.
Sarah, I think we'd be doing a disservice to our guests if we don't talk about cash flow and sources of money. I know that when I ran out of money, I didn't know where I was going to go get it. So, going to the bank today and asking for a line of credit, you really have to have very good equity, good earning, at least good tax returns for the last 3 years before they'll even consider a line of credit. And that's just me talking to Chase Bank and some of my lenders right now about what they're doing. Some of us have home equity lines and that's a very dangerous way to continue to fund a company and to take on so much personal debt. And while we don't want to be a bummer on this call and we want to say this is, we're going to move forward, I just caution my fellow hospitality members to just really know what your break-even point is and what your breaking point is before you are, hopeful wishing is what I call it. You're so hopeful and you're wishing this is going to all come back, and you mortgage your entire house and the future is unforeseen, and then you're really personally in dire straits. And I can speak from experience. I did that. And I had to work very diligently in the last 5 years after 2008 to really get everything paid off. So I did it because I was in denial, which, denial stands for don't even know I'm lying to myself. And it was a really bad decision. I should have made a smarter reorganization decision in the beginning, and I didn't have the wherewithal. And bankruptcy, well, nobody wants to talk about it. It's real. And there are many of us that know when their money's going to run out and they're going to have to make a hard choice. And typically good bankruptcy attorneys can be your friends. They can say, hey, you don't need to do this. Let's strategize this way, or make this change. And I just really want everybody to know you can't run out and just find money, and be careful protecting your family, your personal assets. And those really take a deep emotional toll. but I didn't want to be just a bummer.
No, you gotta be realistic. So
Oh no.
we do have a quick comment / I think question. This is more serious than 9/11 or 2008. Major companies have already closed, laid off thousands of employees. This feels like a much different crisis. How are you guys thinking about having to price increase, taking deposits sooner, having 30-day terms go away? How are you guys kind of thinking about the future of this? Jamie, I see you raising your hand.
We have changed we've changed our contract moving forward, especially in the state of California now that won't be able to have shift changes should that law pass with, past 7 days. We're changing our contract to no refunds, nothing after 7 days pre-event. And we have a whole chunk of money right now in a do not touch savings account that is all client deposits for this year. Nobody's called to ask for their money back, which just astounds me. But I'm not using deposits for cash flow. They are separate. I don't ever want to be embarrassed if any company calls and needs their money back. So I've already separated it. And we're going to really look at 100% payment before events, which is very unusual. Our past policy was 80% before, 20% after. We're not going to do that. We don't have 30 days cash flow to be able to really help our clients out. So we'll see how that flies.
Anyone else on the call have anything to add? Could be people, not even the panelists, but anyone else thinking about this?
Well, I will say that one of the articles on the NACE.net website, several of them, resources for business, talk about cancellation insurance and talk about what if about canceling contracts and coronavirus and things of that nature. So it really is an astounding resource for those that are looking for more information on that as well. But I'll defer to the caterers to say, what they feel will be the long-term impacts on contracts here.
I'll leave that to any of the guests that are on that question, since I'm not involved in the day-to-day, the current business. So as far as contracts and deposits.
And I know we do have a few other folks that are not necessarily caterers on this call, but event professionals, photographers, florists, event rental companies. Feel free, anyone, to chime in. I know we're looking for solutions all around and how you guys are.
I don't think that there's any distinctions. I feel that a florist, photographers, exactly in my boat, and we're all rowing the same direction. So if everybody changes to 100% payment before events, then that's the way the tide's going to go. And the industry can lead that if we're all in the same boat. And it reteach our clients as to how the industry is going to expect payment and not going to be able to cash flow and wait 30, 40, 60 days. I'm certainly not going to take business and expect to wait 90 days to get paid.
Right.
I see Roy Porter has jumped up on our screen. Is he there? Do you see that?
I see the name, yeah.
Yay.
Roy, are you on? Anything to add?
Can you hear me through the phone?
Yes.
Good. Like Lisa said, just to cement that in, plan for the recovery, look for the future, and cash flows wise, I'd be getting all your money up front, trying to collect. That's going to be a bear afterwards. The other thing is seriously look at your agreements and the force majeure inclusions. If you don't have it already, there's a lot of discussions and a lot of legal forums about what and how extensive it is right now. And because laws vary throughout the country, get with your legal advisors and get that in, because it's force majeure is to protect you and make the best of it. We're going to get through this and we're going to come out stronger in the end. communicate a lot to your staffs. Those are people you're going to need as this comes back.
Thanks, Roy. I want to read off a few comments in the chat that we're getting. I know maybe not everyone's able to see it. Jennifer here with Night and Day Productions would support 100% payments prior events. We've already switched to this 7-day prior. We also have Susan. She used to collect 30 up front and then 70 before delivery with deposit refundable if canceled before 10 days. We will probably change to 50-50 and the deposit will be non-refundable, but perhaps they're looking at changing to 100%. And then of course, Susan added, don't want to scare away any customers. They're a party rental company, so figuring out the right approach and messaging makes sense. Joel has a quick question. What is everyone hearing about business interruption insurance and a virus exception?
I learned that there was no hope for me in my current situation. And unless the government declares this force majeure, I have no way to get out of anything on that basis. And event cancellation insurance, an interruption of business insurance wasn't covered by this virus. And my insurance people are saying until there's a government intervention that says that it can be, they're not going with it. No, they're not going to give me any money because of this.
I see Stephanie from Scottsdale, Arizona commented, she works with a private event space in Scottsdale, which has hosted in-house catering and bar services for 10 years. We've always required payment pre-event, so prepayment is a viable long-term option for everyone. I also have a comment from Robert. With our DMC, we're taking this opportunity to work on internal projects and do a digital cleanup. Definitely looking at our contracts and some new ideas, floor plans, light, personal distancing. We'll also look at our deposit requirements. This leads me, there was a few questions of, okay, with this downtime, how are you utilizing employees for different services? Lisa, I know you had some ideas on that. Can you kind of share during this time what you're looking at?
Well, we have, in fact, I have employees in today, and we're just doing a really deep clean of our picnic warehouse, which is something we wouldn't be doing right now. And they're happy to have the hours, and I'm happy to have the job done. But I really had to look at my cash flow to see if this was a wise spend. And knowing that in 90 days, I'm going to jump right into picnic season, it seemed to be a good time to use that money for this resource. And I can't remember what else I told you yesterday we were doing.
Oh, you were chatting kind of like more along the lines of what you were having employees doing during this time. So I know you had some creative solutions, cleaning, painting, like really.
Yeah, they're cleaning, painting, throwing things away. Yeah, I'm just trying to give everybody a few hours at least. And mostly that's for emotional support because some of them are going crazy at home. And they don't, but I was very careful about saying, are you comfortable coming in? This is a choice. If you wish to come in and have some hours to clean, then it's your choice, because I don't want anybody to feel that I'm making them come to work in an insecure, health situation.
Right, and last week, our warehouse has never been cleaner and more organized than last week. So we spent all of that until we are sheltering in place here in the Bay Area. So I think doing that, but I like the idea of the contracts, reviewing the contracts and being ready for when business starts up, like we're ready to go, pushing that restart button.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to 90 days being over. This morning, I had a conference call with my salespeople, and we put up 40 ideas on the board for what this is going to look like when it's over. So we're really energized about how we're going to impact our community, how we're going to give back, how we're going to support our clients. We're emailing back and forth with a lot of clients. They're home. They want to talk. So this idea that they're not at work is not necessarily true. And reaching out and holding their hands and empathizing and visiting and, what's it like being home with the 2-year-old? They want to talk. So yeah. We're finding good response from the effort we're putting into communicating with our customers.
I think what Lisa's doing is probably the smartest thing, just shutting down for a period of time. I think a lot of employees, I mean, we've been working very hard for the past 5 years. The economy's been booming. You know, maybe an employee wants to be off for 3 months and be on unemployment and be able to spend their time with their kids and at least get some kind of assistance. So, and know that there's a job when they come back. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, makes sense. I wanna be respectful of time, and I see a few more questions and comments coming in. All great. I wanted to thank everyone for their time. Thank you, speakers, for offering so much amazing advice. Our team will send out some recap notes and some resources that Joseph and Lisa and Greg mentioned after this call. And in addition, we'll share some ideas on how to get in touch with us and the panelists as well. So with that, I will end the call. Thank you guys so much. We'll be following up shortly.